All right, all right, all right, fire them up!
I think way too many of y'all take watching movies way too seriously, which is probably why so many people don't like G20. Allow me to offer you an alternate perspective. I have to give credit where credit is due to my friend Will, because if it wasn't for him, I would have totally forgotten that this movie was coming out. Now, see, I knew about G20 maybe sometime around early March, but by the time the movie actually dropped, I had totally forgot about it. But he reminded me that it was coming out, and I honestly, before any of you get your pitchforks and your axes and come from my head, it isn't my fault. Believe me, I really did want to see this movie the first time I heard about it. But if you want to play blame, then you have to lay this at the feet of Amazon, because they did in my opinion, terrible job of advertising this movie. I mean, how can you not advertise a movie more when you have the lead in an action movie be the most visible black female face, if not the most visible, at least one of the top visible faces in all of Hollywood, and you don't push this movie to the moon and have everybody and their mother just just super excited to see it. It's kind of on them, and for me, I really wanted to see it, but they did such a piss poor job at advertising for it. So don't get mad at me, but believe me, I wanted to see it, and I'm glad I sat and watched it. G20 is directed by Patricia Riggin and written by Noah and Logan Miller. And if those names don't really sound familiar to you, join the club, because I had no idea who these people were. And when I looked them up on IMDb, they don't have a whole lot of credits to either one of their names. So it was kind of funny that people who don't really have a ton of credits to their name, they got Viola Davis to star in this movie that's being released by Amazon through their MGM arm. So the fact that they did it, kind of kudos to them, because it looks like they're going to start out in Hollywood on a pretty high note. Viola Davis stars as President Danielle Sutton, U.S. president, by the way. And she's at the G20 summit when it is invaded and taken over by a group of terrorists led by none other than Anthony Starr, who is not actually playing Homelander. But at the same time, he is playing Homelander. You'll understand that when you start to watch it. Now, she decides to strike back as any president would by using her military background, which she was former military, and her connections being the president of the United States, in order to free the hostages and stop the terrorists. Now, right off the bat, I know a whole lot of people that have reviewed this movie started comparing it to things like Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down. And honestly, those are really good comparisons. But to me, it also, outside of those, has a little bit of Die Hard, which is absolutely my favorite movie, thrown right into it. A person who is caught in the middle of a hostage situation, very much a fish out of water, and leads a counterinsurgency to stop these people and to free the hostages. It is very much like Die Hard. And I think, honestly, when you start to think about it like that, I think that's why so many people had a hard time watching this movie. I mean, I'll be honest, the whole premise of the film is one thing, but for me, seeing that the headlining actor or actress was Viola Davis in this type of movie, in an action film, just hearing about it kind of threw me off at first. But then I started to think, well, you know what? I've seen Viola Davis play uh, other characters where I was like, okay, so she can play that and she can play this. Specifically, Amanda Waller in a couple of DC films. I was like, okay, Amanda Waller, military background in the government, has some things. I mean, canonically, Amanda Waller has stared down Batman, stood toe to toe with Superman, and has outwitted Lex Luthor. So if she's playing that character, I'm pretty sure she could play this one. So I decided to give the movie a chance. And honestly, it's not a bad film. So many people that have reviewed this film have said, oh, it's kind of slow, and the plot itself is kind of weird, and one of the things that I will nitpick about the movie as very just completely off the rails that they didn't really think out was Anthony Starr as the terrorist. Not that him playing a terrorist, but the terrorist aim at taking all of these world leaders out at the G20 summit. I don't know if maybe most people don't know, but there are contingency plans for when the president and all these other heads of state get compromised, whether they are killed or kidnapped or anything. There's a chain of command where everything goes through. So I don't think his plan would have actually bore fruit in the first place. So that aspect of the film to me was a big letdown. Really, that is the only thing I can nitpick about the film. Viola Davis is a very, I can't even say capable. She commands the film. She commands the scenes every time she's in it. Anthony Anderson is very good. Marseille Martin, who actually plays their daughter, is very good. Anthony Starr as the lead terrorist is really good. Honestly, watching this film, it felt like I was watching another iteration of Olympus Has Fallen or White House Down. And honestly, watching it, it does feel like a film that would fit somewhere in like the 1980s. It's a lot of shtick. It's a handful of one-liners. The action is really good. The overall tone of the film, it's not as fun as you would hope it would be, but it's still enjoyable to watch. So most of the criticism about the movie is really just about the terrorist plans and other little things that really in the long run just kind of don't matter. And quite frankly, any movie that wants to throw Clark Gregg in on the back end, I can't really hate it. I really think this film could have used a bit more of Anthony Anderson and Marseille Martin because they have really good chemistry on screen next to Viola Davis. Well, when they're interacting, and a little bit more Clark Gregg too. You can never have too much Clark Gregg in the film. But honestly, I think the biggest letdown to this film is the advertising for it and the fact that the word of mouth didn't really get around to get people interested in seeing the film and why people should see the film. Yeah, a handful more of the action sequences could have really turned the notch up. The film isn't actually very long, about an hour and 50 minutes, so you're not going to sit there and watch it and get bored. It's going to get right to the point very fast, and by the time you even think about getting bored, the film will be over. You'll be watching the credits. You're going to have fun watching the film. You're going to enjoy Viola Davis as she is always impressive. You're going to have a handful of chuckles from Anthony Anderson. It's always good to see much of the cast, like I said, Clark Gregg and Marseille Martin. Anthony Starr is really good, and he does have a lot of moments where you look at him and it's like, oh, he's channeling Homelander. But you know, when you have an iconic character like that under your belt, why not throw a little bit of that in whenever you're in a different role? But honestly, this is just a straight up fun movie. Rewatch value, you'll probably rewatch this just as much as you will rewatch its closest comps, in my opinion, which is Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down. And honestly, I could see them actually turning her character, her presidential character, into something else and having follow-up movies just like Olympus Has Fallen has follow-ups and White House Down has follow-ups. The movie is very much like those, and it fits in that category. So all of the criticism about the movie about, hey, it doesn't feel fast paced enough and it's not enough action. Yeah, add a little bit more action. You don't really need to make the movie any longer than it already is. And just a handful of more action sequences. And honestly, I think the film it's good as is. It could be just a little bit better with a few more action set pieces, but honestly, it's not really that bad. And it's not really as bad as most people make it out to be with some of the criticisms that they come up with. Overall, this is a 7 out of 10. This is a movie that if it's on some random Saturday when you're kicking around the house after you get done cleaning up and you see it on TV, it's like, ooh, hey, it's Viola Davis. I know her. I can watch this movie again. It's a pretty good movie, and you just sit there and have fun with it. And trust me, by the time you get to the end, there are going to be a handful of things where it's going to be like, yeah, that's really silly. Just cut your brain off and enjoy it. It's that type of action film, and pretty much like other films, just enjoy it and don't overthink it. So that's my thoughts on G20. It is streaming right now on Amazon Prime. Trust me, get over there, watch it, have all the fun watching it, pop some popcorn at your house. It's one of the few times where a movie gets released on streaming and I'm like, hey, you know what? This is a movie that should have been released on streaming, not in theaters. This is actually just a fun movie for you to go and watch. I guarantee you'll like it. That's it for now. We're going to get out of here, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to leave me your thoughts on G20 starring Viola Davis down in the comments. I would love to hear what you think about it. And we're going to get out of here and end this video the same way we end all other videos. God bless. I love you, and peace. See you next time.